tears in. You probably have had or at least heard of Szechuan回锅肉, or called twice-cooked pork. But have you ever had it in a steam bun? If you like the softness of the buns and the spicy and savory twice-cooked pork, then this dish is for you. Instead of using dry yeast, I'm making an old dough starter myself for the buns. Dilute 2 grams of dry yeast into 100 grams of lukewarm water. Use 100 grams of regular flour, dig a small well in the middle, pour in our yeast water and 50 grams of fermented rice juice. The recipe is on the card above. Mix them well until smooth, then set aside to rest. It takes about 2 to 3 days in the room temperature or 3 to 5 days in the fridge. For our buns, we will need 500 grams of regular all-purpose flour, pour in 50 grams of our self-made old dough starter and 240 grams of water. You can also add in about 3 to 4 grams of dry yeast here in winter to accelerate the resting process. I like to add in the water bit by bit to control the consistency. It should be relatively dry and hard at the beginning, kneaded repeatedly for about 5 to 10 minutes until the dough turns smooth on the surface. Cover it with a lid and let it rest for about 2 hours. Meanwhile, we can prepare our twice-cooked pork filling. Hydrate 100 grams of dried Chinese cabbage with boiling water to wash away some of the salt. My mom made this one herself. For our pork bellies, take about 1 liter of water in a medium-sized pot. Add a thumb-sized ginger, a few star anise or Szechuan peppercorns. Pour in half tablespoon of Chinese cooking wine, then add our cleaned pork bellies, about 500 grams. Simmer it on high heat until the meat turns pale. Once they are cool enough to handle, cut them roughly to thin slices. Squeeze out the excessive water on our dry cabbages. Then chop them to about the same size as our pork slices. You can give them a try here. They have a distinctive fragrance which fits perfectly with pork bellies. Now take a large wok and heat up 100 grams of lard on medium heat. Once it's melted, add our sliced pork belly and saute them slightly until golden brown. They can take a couple of minutes until we get some of the fat out from the meat and they will turn slightly crispy. Pour in 1 tablespoon of Chinese cooking wine, 35 grams of 豆瓣酱, 20 grams of 甜面酱, 1 tablespoon of dark soy sauce, and 1 tablespoon of light soy sauce, and season it with a pinch of salt at the end. Stir the meat slightly to coat them evenly with the dark sauce. Once we get this dark and glossy color on the meat, add our chopped dry cabbages and 25 grams of spring onion. Stir them roughly until they are incorporated and set aside and let it cool. Now we can work on the dough again. Add 20 grams of caster sugar, half tablespoon of baking soda, and 50 grams of lard. Knead the dough repeatedly with our hands until it turns smooth, and to release all the air pockets in the mixture. The more we knead it, the softer it gets. Cover it again for another 15 minutes. Here is our twice-cooked pork filling chopped into fine pieces. Mix it with 25 grams of freshly minced spring onion. This recipe has a yield of 20 steamed buns. Each one of them needs about 43 grams of the dough. Sprinkle a bit of loose flour on the working surface to prevent it from sticking. Press each of the small dough into a round pie shape with our palm. Then roll it with a wooden roller along the edges until we get the desired shape. It should be thin on the side and thick in the middle. Add about 1 tablespoon of the filling and fold it along the edges and close the gap at the end. There are many different ways to wrap a steamed bun. I have a separate video on that. The recipe is on the card above. The trick here is to make as many pleats as possible and try to fold them as evenly as possible. We can then put them in a steamer and cook them on high heat for about 8 minutes. Be careful though, don't let them cook for too long. The buns can turn yellow, even brown after a while. The twice cooked pork filling is one of my favorites. Enjoy! Did you subscribe yet? If not, click here, click here, click here. Every day watch new videos at 6 p.m. Here are my 2 recommended videos. Thanks for watching. See ya. 谢谢大家。